In Dominica, there is an extraordinary doctor. And all of our dogs join a call. Hey, this is Sai, and you're watching SAT TV. Big up SAT, big up SAT, big up SAT.
Yo, gang to the Zilla, you're watching SAT Telecom, people, them try, see that, Rasta.
Good evening, I am Nisha Charles and I'm your presenter for today. Thank you for joining us for SAT TV News. Among the major developments, Roseau Valley residents' concerns addressed after the ephemeral trip to Guadeloupe. Nevis goes to the polls, Philippines to take South China's sea route to court, and in sports, the WICB rejects requests from the Grenada Cricket Association. Details of these and other stories after the break.
It's only when we unite as one, then a lot more thing can be done. Stop this useless fight down, killing out your own brother man. Time we rise and all realize we have an enemy in disguise, standing right in the mix of you. Got to know who is who. This is Derek Rapiters and you're watching SAT TV. That's what I have, SAT TV. SAT TV, that's the way to go. Rah! To the world. Ooh diddy, ooh diddy, ooh diddy.
Thank you for staying with us. Now for the details of the news. One man is left nursing injuries at the Princess Margaret Hospital after a landslide covered him while working in the Grand Bay area on Tuesday morning. 36-year-old Mr. Avro Francis of Bagatelle was working with a caterpillar in Mitcham, Grand Bay when part of the mountain above him collapsed. His caterpillar was covered by the landslide and turned on its side with Mr. Francis inside. 42-year-old Mr. Francis Eli from Grand Colibri, Grand Bay, was one of the first men on the scene.
When in my house there, in my garden there, I reach in a bloom. When I have a bloom, I just run by the road. When I reach there, I see the sun cover the partner there. I just come there. I knock the what them call it again now, the caterpillar. I pardon my partner. I am my partner mechanical, yeah.
Mr. Eli said Mr. Francis normally works in the area alone, and he has repeatedly asked him to not work there alone. The ambulance was called to the scene and Mr. Francis was transported to the Grand Bay Health Center. Mr. Francis sustained injuries to his head and is in stable condition. He was transported to the Princess Margaret Hospital for further evaluation. In related news, an accident occurred near the Woodbridge Bay port in Foncollet on Monday, January the 21st. Reports circulating are that a Honda CRV registration number PR452 ran into a wall and someone on the passenger side appears to have received minor injuries. At this time, the police have no further information on the matter. In more news, the National Drug Abuse Prevention Unit launched its first anti-drug childhood manual on Monday, January the 21st. The unit is mandated to significantly reduce the demand for drugs on the island, and the manual is in keeping with that demand reduction thrust. A 2006 study shows that the average age of the first use of drugs is 12 years, and the unit thinks that early childhood education is the place to start to curb these habits. The compiling of the preschool manual began in 2010, where 2 workshops were held with preschool teachers to introduce them to teaching drug education. Ms. Jacinta Bannis, director of the National Drug Prevention Unit, says it was a labor of love.
While they welcomed the idea, they felt that they needed more guidelines to make them comfortable in teaching this topic. Even still today, we have difficulty in some teachers teaching drug education at the primary school. However, if we can put guidelines for them, we think we'll make it more comfortable and more easy for them to do that. What we're emphasizing is that you do not teach drug education as a separate subject, but to integrate it into the school curriculum or areas like social studies, language arts, science, and social studies to make it even easier for the teachers.
At the unit, they believe that drug demand reduction efforts must start early, and early childhood education is the best place to start. The director reiterated that drugs are not children's play, and teachers must help children to build confidence and self-esteem. In addition, teachers must educate children about drug use and guide them to make healthy choices.
What they learn at school should be reinforced at home. And therefore, in the next probably 2 years, our thrust will be on parenting programs within the school system. And we have to start at the preschool level. I must say that we already started in Saint-Sauveur last Tuesday. Our drug abuse prevention officer, Mr. Lando, has started his program in at the Saint-Sauveur Primary School. And that's going to run for 3 months, and we hope we can continue within the other schools to bring the program to parents, because when we look back at the drug situation, it boils back down to bad parenting.
Mrs. Beverly LeBlanc is an early childhood education specialist and says the idea for the manual came from a workshop that she attended. She was introduced to Grenada's manual, which held key information that was used during those workshops. She thanks the staff of the Drug Prevention Unit for accepting the recommendation.
And today we have our own drug education manual, because what happens in Grenada is different than what happens here. I also want to thank the teachers who were really happy to come on board, because most times we have workshops and then we give persons information and they go home with the information, but nothing practical actually comes out of the workshop. And so we have a practical project coming from a workshop. So it's not a talk shop, it's really a workshop, and we really did some work.
In the manual, a variety of songs, stories, and poems to make drug education more easily understood by the preschoolers. The lesson plans in the manual were all prepared by teachers. They have also used a thematic approach.
We wanted the lessons to be relevant. We wanted our teachers to see the connection between what is done in comprehension, what is done in language, what is done in social studies. And so we linked and when you look for the manual, you will see us also have what is called the KDI. Now, in the preschool right now, they are now piloting the high scope curriculum, and they call it the key development indicators. So they will see how what is taught is relevant. So the teachers wouldn't think they're teaching something in a vacuum, but they will see the relevance of what they are teaching.
A wide body of research points to the critical impact of development in the early years of a child in the formation of intelligence, personality, and social behavior. Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Mrs. Helen Royer, says the information that children will now learn will form the foundation for all future drug prevention efforts.
It is easier to sustain behaviors practiced in these early years throughout teenage and adult years. This age group are keen to learn and tend to model practice behavior of significant others like parents and teachers. At these stages, children are open to learning life skills they will need later to accept responsibility for their actions, to resist peer pressure, to seek help with problems, and to respect themselves and others.
It is imperative that the curriculum designed for early learners integrate all aspects of the child development. Mrs. Royer says the exposure to the manual should be mandatory since it can yield lifelong results. The phrase, "give people their flowers while they are alive," was exercised by the management of the Anchorage Hotel, Whale Watch and Dive Center as they hosted a manager's cocktail party in honor of the VOSH 2013 annual consecutive mission. Volunteer Optometry Services for Humanity Team VOSH is a non-governmental, non-sectarian, apolitical organization dedicated to the provision of eye and vision care services for those who are below the poverty level and without access to local eye care. The VOSH mission is under the management of Dr. Dan Warble, who received a Meritorious Service Award during the 2012 Independence celebrations. Minister for Information Telecommunications and Constituency Empowerment, Honorable Ambrose George, stated the VOSH mission, which has done a lot for Dominica, also has to give thanks to Mr. Jeffrey Brisbane, who was instrumental in bringing them to the island. Mr. George pointed out that all the years Vosh has been visiting Dominica, it has been a mission filled with commitment, dedication, and service to humanity.
If we're to look at our medical services here in Dominica and make a count at the number of people who visit or who the doctors see, I don't think that we see 500 people per day. So this is fantastic. I mean, this is extraordinary service. And I think we need to really compliment the Vosh team for such effort. And I understood also that the total number of people seen over the past few days at the various districts, total somewhere in the region of 1,700, thereabout. And that in itself is fantastic. And we really appreciate that. And we really want to express our sincere thanks to the Vosh team for your efforts over the years.
He said the team choosing the Anchorage for the past 18 years as their home away from home is also indeed incredible. With that, he said the hotel must have been putting on a wonderful team effort to have the team return year after year after year. Mr. George also gave special thanks to the Rotary Club of Roseau for their partnership with Vosh for the last 19 years. Vosh mission leader Dr. Dan Burrow says without the cooperation and support of his wife and 2 sons, none of this humanitarian effort would have been possible. He pointed out that the mission started very small but expanded throughout the years into what it is right now.
What really is amazing is the support of Rotary, which is service above self. I can't do it without people like Grayson Stedman. Come on up here. Grayson Jr. Grayson Jr. I mean, there's so many people with Reggie and Garnet and everybody, but these guys hear from me way too much during the year to make this work. Okay, but really what makes me amazing is my team, and I'd like to pull my whole team up here. It won't work, but we have some amazing volunteers that just don't stop. They just keep going, and we just became that much better of a team, and it was 575 people.
Dr. Rowell highlighted that although the mission can be very stressful with the constant traveling and unpacking, he gets satisfaction when he reminisces on the amount of people they help. Ms. Yvonne Armour, the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Anchorage Hotel, Whale Watch and Dive Center, thanked the Vosh team for choosing the Anchorage Hotel as their home away from home for the past 18 years.
I think the work that you do is invaluable. When we think of you going out in the morning, getting up very early, having 6 o'clock breakfast, I wish Elizabeth was here, because Vosh wants breakfast from nobody else but Elizabeth. So let's give Elizabeth a Elizabeth and her team at 5 a.m. and they get breakfast ready on time, so Vosh can be out, and they don't look anything like they look right now. They're very serious, very organized, very professional. It's a very different look when they come back and they get to Laro's bar. Very different. Okay? So Laro in Dominican, what we would say here, we soulages them. It really comforts them, and it is really a pleasure to have you. Dr. Dan and Jean would like to call you up to give you a small token. Again, it is a lot of consultation to get this together, because Vosh over the years have given Anchorage some wonderful trophies, some wonderful plaques. There's some very serious plaques, there's some very funny plaques, there's some very cheeky plaques. And we figured, okay, Shama Centennial was instrumental in saying, no, it's all.
Dr. Rudo also extended a special thanks to the Rotary Club of Dominica, whose help has been very instrumental to the mission. Vosh began in 1973 when eye doctors decided they wanted to give back to the community. With this, they researched where the poorest countries were and started on their humanitarian project, which includes eye screening and distribution of eyeglasses for those who need it. So far, they have carried out the project in Guyana, Haiti, Latvia, Honduras, Mexico, and Dominica.
Hold the plaque up. Can we get the plaque up?
In more news, 4 persons who were selected to be part of the 2013 list of FIFA officials were presented with their uniforms and badges on Monday, January the 21st. The 4 were from an initial group of 6 that were nominated. The men are Mr. Caroline John Baptist and Mr. Daniel Leslie, who are referees, and Mr. Neron Williams and Mr. John Jura, who are assistant referees. They have been in that position before, and President of the Dominica Football Association, Mr. Glenn Etienne, expects them to make the association and Dominicans in general proud. The President says it is also an opportunity for the younger referees to continue their hard work in aspiring to be on that list.
It's something now that has become a professional aspect of football where the referees are recognized, and it's good to see that we have at least 4 Dominicans on the FIFA list 2014. And I hope, well, the guys on the list 2014 are encouraging the newcomers or the people at the DFA and the younger ones to encourage them to be on that list maybe in the future, 2014, 2015 and beyond.
The association has been having a good collaboration with the referees this season, and they are hoping that it continues.
I'm not saying I haven't been like that in the past, but I mean, now at present time, I can strongly say that we have a very close relationship with the referees on island, and I hope this can continue. I mean, that's going to be the better part for football. Without the referees, really and truly, that our football will be lacking, because if you have a poor official at a game, it can be a poor game. And if you have a good official at a game, it can make the game, enhance the game. So the referee plays an integral role into the whole playing aspect of football.
The Premier League is in full gear, and the association expects to revamp their Windwards tournament that have been dormant for the past 10 years. They are hoping to begin in April, and the first leg will most likely be in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. According to the President, another aspect they are planning to implement is the senior teams.
We are hoping that at the start of the new season that the teams would be with some form of qualified coach then. It's, you know, with too many times we have seen our football where we have guys on the bench and they have very little knowledge of the coaching aspect of it. So we want to develop our football. We figure that is one of the ways that we should go, that the next football season around, that the Premier team, we start with the Premier teams, should have somebody with some coaching knowledge to start up.
Due to a shortage of medical representation, they are also looking to appeal to FIFA to have a medical course on the way, where at least the Premier team can have an established first aid personnel.
College students and Dominicans on a wider scale are all being invited to the Dominica State College's DSC annual lecture series. Faculty member at the DSC, Ms. Nadine Rivera, stated this will be the first of many which will take place on Wednesday, January 23rd, 2013 at the Fort Young Hotel at 7:30 p.m. Ms. Rivera also pointed out that this inaugural lecture will seek to analyze the issue of heroism in Dominica. The topic is In Search of Heroes, Defining Heroism in a Quest to Identify and Highlight Dominican Heroes.
The lecture will be facilitated by one of our very own, Mr. Ross Boyd, who's been in the college since 1999, and is going to talk to us about what heroism is, to define heroism for us, as well as explore the issue of who our Dominican heroes are, if we have any.
The Dominica State College firmly believes that there are extraordinary exemplary Dominicans. Still, there is a debate as to whether we have men and women who deserve the honor of hero status, and if so, based on what criteria. Ms. Rivera says the lecture is aimed at the entire Dominican populace, as it has been observed that there is a need for intellectual discussion which will stimulate dialogue.
We're definitely expecting a huge turnout from the students of the Dominica State College. It's important because a lot of it has to do with their heritage. It's their people. We are very familiar with the heroes of other nations. We know George Washington, we know Abraham Lincoln, we know Marcus Garvey, we know Nelson Mandela. But who are all people? So it's important that they come to identify their people, and beyond that, they themselves may become Dominican heroes tomorrow as well.
Ms. Rivers stated that the exploration into local heroism will be heralded by Mr. Ross Boyd, a senior lecturer at the State College, who is a returning Dominican from Canada and has been with the college since 1999. He is an active and involved member of the English department because of his passion for English, despite being the head of the Social Sciences department. He is also the resident DSC ethicist, holding degrees in philosophy and engineering.
We do believe that it is important, if you can, to attend the lecture because, like I said earlier, there is a need for discourse, and not just any discourse, but intellectual discourse. So we need that environment where we can sit and talk and argue, disagree, analyze, and that will furnish them with those abilities. And in addition to that, we need to know a little bit, as a people, more of who we are. Who among us have shined? Who has stand as giants among other regular men? So for that reason, come out, let's talk, let's decide this person is a hero because of sports accomplishments, because of political accomplishments, historic accomplishments, and so forth. And I think Mr. Boyd has also indicated that he has some heroes that he wants to highlight, but he's very open and welcome to hearing what you think.
The lecture series will follow the standard international format of lecture delivery, after which the floor will be open to the audience for comments, questions, and discussion. In an effort to reduce the negative perception of a geothermal plant on the minds of Dominicans, Energy Minister Honorable Rayburn Blackmore led a team of media personnel and residents from the Roseau Valley to Guadeloupe, headed toward the Bouillante geothermal plant. The team met with the Mayor of Bouillante, Mr. Malo Jacques-Claude, a representative of the residents who live around the plant, Mr. Marshall Baltimore, and Ms. Lisette Tillander, President of the Association of Bouillante Geothermal Plant, among others. During the meeting, the residents stated that although the plant has been in existence for the past 35 years, they have had no major concerns, especially as it relates to those of what was expressed in Dominica. The mayor said that there are houses in the immediate area of the plant and the residents have never complained of any toxic gas fumes, nor contaminated water, or ever experienced any earthquake that was caused as a result of the geothermal plant's operations. A representative of the residents who live around the plant, Mr. Marshall Baltimore, says the noise of the plant does not affect them too much.
Plus loin des habitations, des maisons, des houses. D'accord? Parce que pour bruit, ça peut causer, pour pas connaître. Quand il est là, en tout veille là. Donc nous allons lutter pour nous faire baisser le bruit là. Ils vont faire l'effort, hein. Ils vont essayer de toute manière pour baisser le bruit là au maximum. Parce que le petit bruit là, ça au Catane là, la journée au baptême, ni d'autres bruits à zozio, bruits à boîte. Mais la nuit, si on est sommeil léger, eh bien pendant la nuit, on peut arriver à attendre, ça peut arriver à gêner, on est dormir bien.
The residents added they never had any skin-related infections caused by any aspect of the plant, though no independent study has been carried out. However, they did point out there are some level of noise pollution while the plant is in operation during the night. Director of Bouillante Geothermal Plant, Mr. Didier Gauthier, said they are working on that aspect.
The best is to go in the desert, perhaps.
Yeah.
But it is possible. I repeat, it's possible to avoid, not to go to zero, but it is possible to avoid the noise. It's possible. We have to improve the installation, and after you will find a good compromise. But the best is to try to have a kind of couloir between the plant and between the population.
After further talks with the residents and the plant manager, the Dominica delegation was convinced that the geothermal plant has more positives than negatives that Dominica will benefit from. Resident of Loda, Mr. Nixon George, stated this plant visit was very enlightening as his concerns were addressed, and seeing people living literally 10 feet from the plant with the only concern of a minimal noise pollution at night is nothing that cannot be dealt with. He said the Dominica personnel who will be in charge of the plant need to make sure they follow all procedures to ensure that the plant is safe at all times, and if approached properly, this geothermal plant will have many benefits for the people of Loda. Alfred Roll, another resident of Loda, says this visit has convinced him that a geothermal plant is the way to go.
If we can really develop this 15-watt megawatt plant back home, it will definitely eliminate all our fossil fuel production and thus making the island one of the first totally green islands in the entire world. So my advice to my people, let us support this project 100%.
Mr. Roll added, there are many advantages than disadvantages of a geothermal plant in Dominica, especially as it will be a more modern one than that of the one in Guadeloupe, so where all gases will be maintained. Mr. Harris Hodge from Loda says what he saw during this visit removed all doubts he had of a geothermal plant in Dominica. With that, he says he is giving his full support to the project, which will benefit the residents of the Roseau Valley.
I've seen people even in close proximity to the plant, even closer than the site that I know of, where the people will be a little distance away from it. And they have not complained of any ill health so far. They just complain about the noise, and which of course the bullion management are taking into consideration those problems and are working towards lessening the noise for them. With everything we'll have noise. We have people making noise, machines making noise, cars making noise, shock swift, broken silencers making noise, and we do cope with them. And I think that what they have proposed for us in Dominica is something far different from what I'm seeing right now.
He is urging the residents of the Roseau Valley to let not their heart be troubled, as God has everything in control, as He is the architect of life. So therefore, we should not be fearful. Minister of Public Works, Energy and Ports, Honorable Reverend Blackmore, stated the plant for Dominica will be more advanced in technology, which will have a capacity of 15 megawatts. The minister pointed out that there are a number of measures taken which will guard against any negative impact to the environment, hence the reason why they have the best experts working on the project. Upon completion of the test wells being drilled, he stated there was no harm done to the environment based on scientific testing.
We are confident, therefore, going forward, that people who have been on this trip can get a better appreciation. Here it is, there's a plant that is more than 45 years old. The well being drilled 50 years ago. And you have people living within close, very, very, very close proximity of the plant. So if we're going to have a plant that's going to be more advanced than this one, less noise and controls to mitigate against any release of toxic gases into the environment. So we have developed an approach, therefore, by getting it right the first time.
Mr. Blackmore went on to say that we are blessed with many natural resources which we must use to turn into something that can work for us in order to realize the prosperity that has evaded us for far too long. As the Bouillon plant does not have a reinjection well, the wastewater is treated and then sent to the sea. However, for some people it is not seen as waste, as residents and visitors bathe in the sea where this water flows and creates a hot water pool.
This is Larry Larrock reporting for SAP TV News on the site of the Bouillon plant in Guadeloupe.
This has been the local segment of the news. Coming up next, regional highlights.